My name is Emily Parker, and I'm 23 years old. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. 23 and already divorced. Trust me, I've heard all the comments. You're too young to even know what marriage is. You should have waited. What's the rush? And you know what? They're all right. I was too young. I should have waited. But I didn't, and I need you to understand why. I grew up in a small town outside of Boise, Idaho. My parents got married when my mom was 19 and my dad was 21. They're still together 30 years later, and they're actually happy. Like, genuinely happy. My grandparents on both sides got married young too. My mom's parents were 18 and 20 when they tied the knot. My dad's parents were 17 and 19. So in my family, getting married young wasn't weird. It was normal. It was expected even. Growing up, I watched my parents build this life together. They worked hard, they supported each other, and they made it work. My dad worked construction, and my mom was a nurse at the local hospital. We didn't have a lot of money, but we had stability. We had love. We had family dinners every night. We had traditions, and I wanted that. I wanted what they had. But here's the thing nobody tells you. Just because your parents made it work doesn't mean you will too. Just because early marriage worked for one generation doesn't mean it'll work for yours. And just because you come from a stable family doesn't mean you know how to pick a stable partner. I met Ethan Brooks when I was 20 years old. We both worked at TechVision Solutions, a mid-sized tech company in Seattle. I had moved there right after graduating from Boise State with a degree in computer science. It was my first real job, my first time living away from home, my first taste of independence. And it was terrifying and exciting at the same time. Ethan was 22 when we met. He had graduated from the University of Washington with the same degree I had. We started working at TechVision around the same time, both of us as junior software developers. We were in the same training cohort, which meant we spent pretty much every day together for the first 3 months. Ethan was sweet, like genuinely sweet. He was the kind of guy who brought coffee for everyone in the morning, who stayed late to help you debug your code even though it wasn't his problem, who remembered little details about people, their birthdays, their favorite lunch spots, their kids' names. Everyone liked Ethan, and I fell for him hard. We started dating about 4 months after we started working together. It was easy and comfortable. We'd work together during the day, then go out for dinner or catch a movie at night. We'd spend weekends hiking in the Cascades or exploring Seattle neighborhoods. We talked about everything, our families, our dreams, our goals. And for the first time since leaving Idaho, I didn't feel lonely. 6 months into dating, Ethan proposed. We were on a weekend trip to the San Juan Islands, watching the sunset from a beach, and he got down on one knee with this simple silver. The company needed someone to lead a project team that would handle the implementation. It was a big deal, the kind of project that could make or break careers, the kind of project that got you noticed by upper management. I applied for the team lead position, not really expecting to get it. I was only 22 at the time, barely 2 years into my career, but I had been doing really well. I'd impressed people with my work. I was organized, detail-oriented, good at communicating with clients, and somehow I got selected. When HR called me into their office to tell me I'd been chosen as the project lead, I was shocked, and thrilled, and terrified. This was my chance to prove myself, to show that despite being young and relatively inexperienced, I could handle big responsibilities. The project team consisted of 6 developers, and one of them was Ethan. At first, I thought it would be fine. Ethan and I had always worked well together. We understood each other's working styles. We communicated easily, and he was supportive when I first got the role. "Babe, this is amazing," he said when I told him. "You're gonna kill it. I'm so proud of you." But once the project actually started, things shifted. Quickly. The first sign was subtle. In our initial team meeting, I was outlining the project timeline and assigning tasks. When I got to Ethan's assignment, he sort of laughed and said, "You sure about that timeline?" Seems a little aggressive. It wasn't what he said. It was how he said it, with this tone that implied I didn't know what I was doing, that I was being naive or overly optimistic. I've built in buffer time, I said calmly. But if you think you need more time, we can discuss it. Nah, it's fine, he said. But then he glanced at the other team members with this look that said, "Can you believe this?" I brushed it off. I told myself he was just being honest about timeline concerns, that I was being too sensitive. But then, after that fight, things at home got cold. Ethan barely spoke to me outside of work-related conversations. When we did talk, it was clipped and formal. He started coming home later and later, saying he needed to work extra hours to catch up, even though I could see his work output hadn't changed. He was avoiding me, and honestly, I was avoiding him too. But if home was bad, work was becoming a nightmare. Ethan started actively sabotaging me, not in obvious ways. He was too smart for that. He did it in small, subtle ways that were hard to prove, but impossible to ignore. He'd miss deadlines just barely enough that it created problems for the project timeline, but not enough that it was clearly deliberate. When I'd ask him about it, he'd have excuses. "Oh, I ran into some unexpected technical issues. Sorry, I didn't realize that was due today. I thought I mentioned I was blocked on that. Did I not send you an email?" He'd send confusing or contradictory information to the client in CC chains where I was somehow left off, and then I'd have to clean up the mess. When I confronted him, he'd say, "Oh, sorry, I thought you were on that email thread. My mistake." He started showing up late to meetings, which signaled to the rest of the team that my meetings weren't important. When I called him out on it, he'd say something like, "Sorry, got caught up in another meeting," or "lost track of time." But the worst thing he did was start gossiping about me to other team members. I didn't realize this was happening until Sarah pulled me aside one day. "Hey, I need to tell you something," she said, looking uncomfortable. "Ethan's been saying stuff about you to some of the guys on the team. Nothing super explicit, but like implying that you don't really know what you're doing. That you got this role because management wanted to look good by promoting a young woman. That kind of thing." My stomach dropped. He said that. Not exactly in those words, but that's the implication, and I think some of the guys are starting to listen to him. I just thought you should know. I felt sick. My own husband was undermining my professional reputation. The person who was supposed to be my biggest supporter was actively trying to make me fail. That night, I confronted Ethan. "Sarah told me you've been talking about me to the team," I said, "saying I don't deserve this role." "I haven't said anything like that," he replied calmly. "If that's what Sarah thinks she heard, she's misinterpreting." "So you haven't been talking about me at all?" "I've had conversations with colleagues where I've expressed legitimate concerns about some project decisions. That's not the same as talking about you. Ethan, you're my husband. If you have concerns, you should talk to me directly, not gossip to the team behind my back." "It's not gossip if it's about work," he said. "And maybe if you were more open to feedback, I wouldn't need to discuss these concerns with others." He was so good at twisting things, at making it sound like I was the unreasonable one, like I was being too sensitive or misunderstanding the situation. But I wasn't imagining this. The team dynamics had changed. I could feel it. Some of the team members who had previously been responsive and respectful were now more hesitant, more questioning, more likely to double-check my decisions or suggest alternative approaches, usually approaches that Ethan had planted in their heads. I started documenting everything, every missed deadline, every inappropriate comment in meetings, every instance of Ethan CCing people on emails where I should have been included but wasn't. I kept a record of dates, times, and specifics, because I knew if this came to a head, I'd need evidence. The project was still succeeding overall, but barely, and it was because I was working twice as hard to compensate for Ethan's sabotage. I was staying at the office until 9 or 10 at night, coming in on weekends, triple-checking everything to make sure there were no surprises. I was exhausted, mentally, emotionally, physically exhausted. And I was lonely because the one person who should have been supporting me through this, my husband, was the person making it worse. About 4 months into the project, we had a major client presentation. This was the big one, the midpoint review where we showed the Singapore client everything we'd built so far. It was crucial. If this went well, we'd get approval to continue. If it went poorly, the project could be cancelled, which would be a huge blow to the company and to my career. I spent weeks preparing for this presentation. I rehearsed it dozens of times. I made sure every team member knew their role. I coordinated with the client to understand exactly what they wanted to see. Everything was planned down to the minute. The presentation was scheduled for 9 a.m. Seattle time, which was 1 a.m. Singapore time. The client was calling in from their office, and several TechVision executives would be sitting in on our end. The night before the presentation, I did a final run-through with the team. Everything looked good. Everyone knew what they were supposed to do. I felt as prepared as I could be. But the morning of the presentation, 15 minutes before it was supposed to start, Ethan pulled me aside. "Hey, I need to tell you something," he said. "Can it wait?" I asked. "We're about to start." I spent 2 days at that hotel before I finally went home. Ethan had called and texted dozens of times, alternating between worried messages, "Where are you? Are you okay?" and angry ones, "You can't just disappear without telling me where you are." I didn't respond to any of them. When I finally walked through the door of our apartment, Ethan was sitting on the couch, waiting. "Where the hell have you been?" he demanded. "At a hotel," I said calmly. "Why?" "Because I needed space. Because I can't be around you right now." "Emily, you can't just disappear for 2 days. I thought something had happened to you." "Something did happen to me," I said. "My husband tried to sabotage the most important presentation of my career." "That's not what happened." "Yes, it is. That bug you found 15 minutes before the meeting? It was in a feature we weren't even demoing. You were trying to panic me into looking unprepared. You were hoping I'd fail." "That's insane. I was trying to help." "No, you weren't. You've been trying to make me fail since this project started, and I'm done pretending I don't see it." Ethan's face went red. "You know what your problem is? You can't handle anyone questioning you. You think because you got this one project lead role, you're suddenly better than everyone else. Better than me." "That's not what I think." "Yes, it is. You walk around that office now like you're so important, like you're some big shot, and everyone just kisses your ass because you're the boss. But I know you, Emily. I know that you're in way over your head. I know that you're barely keeping it together. And eventually, everyone else is going to figure that out too." His words hit me like physical blows, because these were my deepest insecurities, the things I worried about late at night. And my husband, the person who was supposed to love and support me, was using them as weapons against me. "Get out," I said quietly. "What?" "Get out of this apartment. Right now. This is my home, too." "I don't care. Get out, or I'm calling the police." I don't know where I found the courage to say that. Maybe it was because I was already so broken that nothing else could hurt me. Maybe it was because I finally understood that this marriage was over and there was no point in pretending otherwise. Ethan stared at me for a long moment. Then he grabbed his keys and his jacket and walked out, slamming the door behind him. I slid down against the wall and cried. Not gentle tears, but big, ugly, body-shaking sobs. Because I was 22 years old and my marriage was falling apart and I had no idea what to do next. The next day, I called in sick to work for the first time in my career. I couldn't face going to the office. Couldn't face seeing Ethan. Couldn't face pretending everything was fine. Instead, I called my mom. "Hey, honey," she answered cheerfully. "How's everything?" And I broke down. I told her everything. The project, the sabotage, the fighting, the hotel, kicking Ethan out. All of it. My mom listened quietly. When I finished, she was silent for a moment. Emily, I'm so sorry, she finally said. I had no idea things were this bad. I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want to admit that I'd made a mistake. Oh, honey, you didn't make a mistake. You fell in love and got married young, like your dad and I did. The difference is your dad supported me. He celebrated my successes. He never tried to make himself feel bigger by making me feel smaller. That's what marriage is supposed to be. But everyone told me we were perfect together. Everyone said we'd make it work. People say a lot of things, but nobody knows what goes on inside a marriage except the two people in it. And if he's treating you like this, then he's not the right person for you, no matter what anyone else thinks. What do I do, Mom? Well, first, you take care of yourself. You make sure you're safe. Then you figure out what you want. And if what you want is to end this marriage, then that's okay. You're young. You have your whole life ahead of you. Don't waste it being miserable. Talking to my mom helped. It reminded me that I wasn't crazy, that my perceptions weren't wrong, that I deserved better than what I was getting. The next day, I went back to work. I walked into David's office first thing in the morning. Do you have a minute? I asked. Of course. Come in. I sat down, took a deep breath, and told him everything. The sabotage, the undermining, the missed deadlines, the gossip. I showed him the documentation I'd been keeping. I explained how Ethan's behavior was affecting the team and the project. David listened carefully, taking notes. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. Thank you for telling me this. I know it couldn't have been easy, especially given your personal relationship with Ethan. I should have said something sooner, I admitted. I didn't want to seem like I couldn't handle it. Managing someone you're in a personal relationship with is inherently complicated. Nobody would fault you for finding it difficult. But Emily, this behavior you're describing is unacceptable. Even if you weren't married to Ethan, even if this was just a regular team member, this would be a serious HR issue. What happens now? Now, I'm going to escalate this to HR. They'll conduct an investigation. In the meantime, I'm going to remove Ethan from your project team. He'll be reassigned to a different project with a different manager. Relief washed over me. Thank you. You don't need to thank me. You did the right thing by reporting this. And Emily, you've been doing an excellent job on this project. Don't let anyone, not Ethan, not anyone, make you doubt that. HR moved quickly. They interviewed me, then interviewed other team members, then interviewed Ethan. Apparently, several other team members confirmed what I'd reported. Sarah, in particular, gave a detailed account of Ethan's undermining behavior. A week later, HR called me in for a meeting. Ethan had been given a written warning for unprofessional conduct and was being removed from my team permanently. If there were any further incidents, he'd face more serious consequences up to and including termination. But here's the thing nobody tells you about workplace investigations. They might solve the work problem, but they don't solve the personal problem. Ethan was furious that I'd reported him. He saw it as a betrayal, as me choosing my career over him. He moved out of our apartment completely. Went to stay with a friend, he said. We barely communicated except through lawyers, because, yes, I'd also contacted a divorce attorney. Her name was Patricia Vance, and she specialized in divorces for young couples. The good news is you've only been married for 2 years and you don't have kids, Patricia said. That makes things simpler. Washington is a community property state, so assets acquired during the marriage are split 50-50. Since you haven't been married long, there probably aren't that many assets to divide. We have a joint bank account and we're both on the apartment lease, I said. That's about it. Okay, we can handle that easily. The other issue is whether either of you will seek spousal support. Given that you both work and have similar incomes, that's unlikely. I don't want anything from him except to be done with this marriage. That's understandable, but I'd like to document the workplace harassment, just in case. If he tries to claim you somehow damaged his career or reputation, We want to be able to show that his own behavior caused any professional consequences he faced. So I gave Patricia copies of all my documentation. Dates, times, specific incidents, emails, everything. It felt good to have someone validating that what I had experienced was real and documented. The divorce papers were filed in November 2024. Ethan was served at work, which I felt bad about. But Patricia said it was the most reliable way to ensure he received them. His response was immediate and ugly. He contested everything. He claimed I'd abused my position as his manager. He claimed I'd created a hostile work environment for him. He claimed the HR investigation was biased because I was friends with the HR director. I wasn't. He claimed I'd ruined his career by reporting him his career was fine. It became clear that this was going to be a fight. The divorce proceedings were brutal in ways I hadn't anticipated. It wasn't just about dividing property or ending a marriage. It became about Ethan trying to rewrite our entire history to make himself the victim. His attorney painted a picture of me as this manipulative young woman who had used her position as project lead to target her husband, who had reported him to HR out of spite, who is now trying to take everything he had in the divorce. None of it was true, but that didn't stop them from arguing it. Patricia was excellent, though. She calmly presented all the documentation I'd gathered. The emails where Ethan had deliberately left me off important communications. The meeting notes showing his pattern of questioning my decisions in front of the team. The testimony from Sarah and other team members about his undermining behavior. She also got David to testify about the conversation we'd had before I'd reported Ethan, and how he'd noticed the problematic team dynamics before I'd even said anything. But the hardest part was when I had to testify about our marriage, about how Ethan had changed once I became his manager, about the fights, the coldness, the night I'd kicked him out. Ethan's attorney tried to make it sound like I was vindictive, like I couldn't handle having my husband on my team and had created this whole narrative to justify getting rid of him. "Isn't it true, Ms. Parker, that you've always been competitive with Mr. Brooks?" the attorney asked. "No," I said. "Isn't it true that you resented that he graduated from a more prestigious university than you did?" "No, I've never cared about that." "Isn't it true that when you were selected as project lead over him, you felt you had something to prove?" "I always have something to prove because I'm 23 years old and leading complex projects. That doesn't mean I targeted my husband." "But you did target him, didn't you? You reported him to HR, got him removed from your team, damaged his professional reputation, all because you couldn't handle the personal dynamics of working with your spouse." Patricia objected, and the judge sustained it, but the damage was done. Ethan's attorney had planted the seed that maybe I was the problem. Maybe I was too young, too inexperienced, too emotional to handle the situation professionally. It made me furious, because I had handled it professionally. I'd documented everything. I'd tried to address it directly. I'd only gone to HR when the behavior continued and affected the project. I'd done everything right, but I was still being made to feel like I'd done something wrong. When Ethan testified, he played the hurt husband card. "I supported Emily's career from the beginning," he said. "I was proud when she got the project lead role. But once she became my manager, everything changed. She became controlling and hypercritical. Nothing I did was good enough. She started looking for reasons to criticize me, and when I tried to give honest feedback or raise legitimate concerns, she took it as insubordination. It was such a twisted version of reality that I almost laughed. Except it wasn't funny, because there were people in that courtroom who were listening to him and nodding, who were buying his version of events. But then Patricia cross-examined him. "Mr. Brooks, can you explain why multiple team members corroborated Ms. Parker's account of your behavior?" she asked. "They were afraid of her. She was their manager." "Including Sarah Chen, who voluntarily came forward to report your behavior before Ms. Parker even went to HR." Ethan hesitated. "Sarah and Emily are friends." "Are they?" Ms. Parker's testimony was that Sarah was a colleague she barely knew outside of work. Do you have evidence they were close friends? No, but Mr. Brooks, did you or did you not tell team members that your wife had gotten the project lead role because management wanted to look good by promoting a young woman, not because she was qualified? I never said that exactly. What did you say exactly? I may have expressed concerns about her experience level. That's not the same thing. To her face or behind her back. What? Did you express these concerns directly to Ms. Parker, or did you discuss them with other team members? Ethan shifted uncomfortably. I discussed them with colleagues. So behind her back, while she was your manager and your wife. I was trying to protect the project. By undermining the project lead's authority. The cross-examination went on, and with each question, Patricia methodically dismantled Ethan's version of events. By the end, even his own attorney looked like he knew they were losing. The judge's ruling came in December 2024. The marriage was dissolved. Assets were split 50-50, which meant we each walked away with about $15,000 from our joint savings, and we split the security deposit on the apartment. Neither of us paid spousal support. It was clean and simple, legally speaking. But the judge also included a statement in the record that she found Ms. Parker's testimony and evidence credible, and that Mr. Brooks' behavior as described constituted workplace harassment regardless of the personal relationship between the parties. That statement mattered, because it meant that on the record, in a court of law, someone had said, you weren't wrong. What happened to you was real. You didn't imagine it. At work, things were complicated. Everyone knew about the divorce. Everyone had opinions. Some people were supportive. Others thought I'd been too harsh. A few people seemed to think I'd gotten Ethan in trouble because I couldn't handle working with my husband. Not because he'd actually done anything wrong. But the project was succeeding. We completed the Singapore implementation in January 2025, ahead of schedule and under budget. The client was thrilled. TechVision executives were impressed. And David pulled me aside after the final presentation to tell me I was being considered for a permanent management position. You handled a really difficult situation with a lot of professionalism, he said. Not just the technical aspects of the project, but the interpersonal challenges too. That's exactly the kind of leadership we need. Thank you, I said. That means a lot. I know this year has been hard for you, both professionally and personally, but you should be proud of what you've accomplished. I was proud, but I was also exhausted, emotionally drained, and still processing everything that had happened. Ethan transferred to a different department shortly after the divorce was finalized. We rarely saw each other at work anymore, which was a relief. I heard through the grapevine that he was dating someone new, another developer at the company. I felt nothing about that. No jealousy, no sadness, just nothing. The hard part was dealing with my own feelings, because I'd loved Ethan, really loved him, and I believed he loved me too. But once I had something he wanted, once I had authority, success, recognition, his love evaporated. Or maybe it had never been real love to begin with. Maybe it had been love conditional on me staying in a certain role, on me staying beneath him professionally, on me never outshining him. And that's a hard thing to realize about someone you married. It's March 2025 now. I'm 23 years old, divorced, living alone in a studio apartment in Fremont, and somehow I'm okay. Actually, I'm more than okay. I'm better than I've been in a long time. The permanent management position came through. I'm now officially a project manager at TechVision, leading a team of 8 developers on a new client project. I got a significant raise. I have my own office. I have the respect of my colleagues. And I've learned how to lead without constantly second-guessing myself. Working through therapy has helped a lot. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Rachel Kim, right after the divorce. She specializes in young women navigating career and relationship challenges, and she's been invaluable. You experience something a lot of young women in male-dominated fields experience, Dr. Kim told me. When you succeed, some men, particularly men who feel they should be succeeding instead of you, react with hostility. They can't handle seeing a woman, especially a younger woman, in a position of authority over them. But he was my husband, I said. He was supposed to be different. Marriage doesn't make someone immune to sexism or insecurity. If anything, it sometimes makes it worse because the personal relationship intensifies the professional dynamics. She helped me understand that what I'd experienced wasn't my fault, that I hadn't done anything wrong by accepting a leadership role, that I hadn't been too young or too inexperienced or too anything. I'd been qualified and I'd done well, and Ethan's inability to handle that was his problem, not mine. I've also rebuilt my relationship with my parents. I was so afraid to tell them about the divorce. I thought they'd be disappointed. But when I finally called them and explained everything, my mom surprised me. "Emily, I'm sorry you went through that," she said. "But I'm proud of you for leaving. Your dad and I got lucky. We grew together instead of apart. But not everyone does. And staying in a marriage that's making you miserable just because you made a commitment isn't noble. It's just sad." My dad, who's usually pretty quiet about emotional stuff, got on the phone and said, "You know what takes real courage? Admitting when something isn't working and doing something about it. You did that at 23. I'm proud of you." Hearing that from them meant everything. I've also reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my marriage. When you're in a relationship that's consuming all your emotional energy, friendships fall by the wayside. But my college roommate, Jess, reached out when she heard about the divorce, and we've been talking regularly. She's in Portland now, working as a graphic designer, and we've already planned a weekend trip to meet up. "You sound so much lighter," she told me on our last call. "Like yourself again." And she was right. I did feel lighter, like I'd been carrying this enormous weight and had finally been able to set it down. Dating is complicated. I'm not sure I'm ready for a relationship. The idea of trusting someone enough to be vulnerable with them again feels overwhelming. But I've gone on a few casual dates, and it's been good to remember that not every guy is like Ethan, that there are men who can celebrate women's success without feeling threatened, who can be supportive without being condescending, who can handle their partner being their professional equal or even their boss. One guy I went out with, Marcus, is a teacher. When I told him about my job, about being a project manager at my age, he was genuinely impressed. "That's amazing," he said. "You must be really talented." No caveat. "No, but you're so young," or "that must be stressful," or any of the undermining comments I'd gotten used to from Ethan. Just straightforward admiration. It was refreshing. We've been on a few dates, and while I don't know if it'll turn into something serious, it's nice to spend time with someone who makes me feel good about myself instead of small. At work, I've also become kind of an accidental mentor to other young women. A few of the junior developers have come to me with stories about male colleagues who don't take them seriously or who undermine their ideas in meetings. And I've been able to share what I learned. Document everything, I tell them, not because you're trying to get people in trouble, but because if things escalate, you need to be able to prove what happened. And don't be afraid to speak up. Yes, some people will think you're being too sensitive or too aggressive or too ambitious, but those aren't your people. The right people will support you. One of the women, Angela, came to me after I helped her deal with a situation where a male colleague kept taking credit for her ideas. "Thank you," she said. "I was starting to think I was crazy, that I was imagining it." "You're not crazy," I told her. "Trust your instincts. You know when something's not right." Looking back on everything that's happened, I've learned some hard lessons. I learned that getting married young isn't automatically a mistake, but it is risky, because people change so much in their 20s. Who you are at 21 is not who you'll be at 25. And the person you marry might not grow in the same direction as you. I learned that family patterns don't always repeat the way you expect them to. Just because my parents' early marriage worked doesn't mean mine would. Every relationship is unique, and you can't base your decisions on what worked for other people. I learned that professional success doesn't automatically come with personal happiness. I got the project lead role I wanted, but it cost me my marriage. And while I don't regret my career choices, I've had to grieve the relationship I lost. I learned that some men can't handle women in positions of authority, even men who seem progressive and supportive, even men who say they want successful partners. When it actually happens, when their girlfriend or wife becomes their boss, something in them breaks. And that's not something you can fix or manage or work around. It's just who they are. Most importantly, I learned that I'm stronger than I thought I was. At 22, I led a complex international project while dealing with sabotage from my own husband. I reported workplace harassment even though the harasser was my spouse. I filed for divorce even though I was terrified of being seen as a failure. I testified in court even though it was humiliating. I survived all of it, and I came out the other side intact. I'm 23 years old. I'm divorced. I'm a project manager at a tech company. I'm living alone. I'm rebuilding my life piece by piece. And I'm genuinely happy for the first time in a long time. To anyone listening to this who's going through something similar, I want you to know it's not your fault. If your partner can't handle your success, that's their insecurity, not your problem. You don't have to make yourself smaller to make them feel bigger. You don't have to dim your light so they can shine. And you definitely don't have to stay with someone who treats you like a threat instead of a partner. Success is not a betrayal of your relationship. Ambition is not selfish. Taking a promotion is not abandoning your spouse. Those are lies that insecure people tell to keep you in your place. And if you're worried that leaving makes you a failure, let me tell you something. Staying in a relationship that's destroying you is not noble. It's not loyal. It's not committed. It's just sad. The real courage is in admitting that something's not working and having the strength to walk away. Yes, people will judge you. People judged me for getting married so young. People judged me for getting divorced so quickly. People had opinions about how I handled the workplace situation, the divorce, everything. And you know what? I survived that too. Because other people's opinions about your life matter a lot less than you think they do. I'm not saying divorce is always the answer. I'm not saying every difficult marriage should end. But I am saying that if your partner responds to your success with resentment, sabotage, and hostility, that's not a marriage worth saving. Because a real partner celebrates your wins. A real partner supports your growth. A real partner doesn't feel threatened when you shine. I got married at 21 because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Because I came from a family where early marriage worked. Because I loved someone and thought that was enough. But I've learned that love without respect is worthless. Love without support is empty. And love that requires you to stay small is not love at all. I'm still figuring out my 20s. I'm still learning who I am outside of being someone's wife. I'm still building my career and my life and my sense of self. But I'm doing it on my own terms now. I'm making decisions based on what I want, not what someone else needs me to be. And that freedom, that autonomy, that's worth everything I went through to get here. My name is Emily Parker. I'm 23 years old. I got married too young, and I got divorced even younger. I became my husband's boss, and he couldn't handle it. He tried to destroy my career, and when that didn't work, he tried to destroy me in divorce court. But I survived. I documented everything. I fought back. I won. And now I'm rebuilding. One day at a time. One project at a time. One decision at a time. I don't know what my future holds. I don't know if I'll marry again or have kids or stay in Seattle or move somewhere completely new. But I know that whatever I do, I'll do it as a whole person. Not as half of a couple that requires me to shrink. Not as someone's wife who has to manage her husband's ego. Just as Emily. Just as myself. And that's more than enough. If you're in a relationship where your success is a problem, where your ambition is threatening, where your growth is seen as betrayal, please know that you deserve better. You deserve a partner who cheers for you, who's proud of you, who wants you to succeed even if it means you succeed more than them. Because that's what real love looks like. Don't waste your 20s or any years of your life being small for someone who should be making you feel big. You're worth more than that.